The child would be sucking my right nipple, but his teeth weren't human, they looked unnatural. I don't know how the devil orchestrated it, but I found myself paralyzed, just watching him continue. When he starts biting my nipple, I'd struggle to spank him on the back, and he stops biting, but persisted in sucking. Every time I'd wake up, I'd scream, Jesus, and murmur prayers against any bad dreams or demons planning evil against me. After these nightmares, I'd always find a strange bite mark on my right nipple. The pain becomes more intense when I wear a bra. After experiencing the same nightmare for the 7th time, I decided to seek prayers from my pastor. However, I didn't mention the child, I only told him that I had been having strange dreams. He prayed with me for several minutes before I left, and for a while, the nightmares stopped. But as he grew older, the problems I faced became even more terrifying. I'd go into details, just read on. Still, I couldn't bring myself to abandon the child. I held on to my faith, trusting God for protection. When he turned 3, I noticed that I started losing weight. I started letting the boy to walk around the compound. I always monitor him to know the kind of people that would probably be in contact with him. I initially considered enrolling him in a private school near the factory where I worked as a personal assistant, but my instincts changed, and I decided to raise him by myself and see how life would unfold. Meanwhile, my daughter was still supporting herself, having already graduated, and she visits me twice a month when she's less busy. Whenever Beezy asked about the child, I would lie, telling her he was a relative's son and that she shouldn't ask much questions about him. Since I brought the child to my house for the 3 years, I hadn't seen him laugh, but he loves playing with the toys I bought him since it was the only thing keeping him company. I bought Queen Premier and started teaching him how to read, but he wouldn't concentrate. Any small hit I'd give him, he'd start crying. I'd have to spend minutes to console him just to make sure he keeps quiet. There was another night when he was still within the 3 years. Some unexplainable sounds woke me from sleep, and my first thought was of the boy. I stretched my hands around the bed but couldn't find him. Quickly, I turned on my phone's flashlight and saw him standing motionless on the floor on pants, staring at the ceiling with mouth half open. It was as if he was communicating something that I couldn't see. Even with the light shining on him, he remained completely undisturbed. Quickly, I turned on my phone's flashlight and saw him standing motionless on the floor on pants, staring at the ceiling with mouth half open. It was as if he was communicating something that I couldn't see. Even with the light shining on him, he remained completely undisturbed. I quickly grabbed the small bottle of anointing oil from my nightstand, opened it, and threw it at him, splashing some of the contents on him before he collapsed on the floor. I was scared. My heart was pounding, thinking he might have lost consciousness or even died. I carefully approached him, tapped him, and he rose up, breathing heavily. He started looking around. I turned his face sideways to locate any mark or anything strange but found nothing. His navel were the only thing I noticed that started shooting out. The type I had never seen before. When I questioned him, "What is it? Who were you talking to?" he wouldn't say anything. "Did you see anyone? Talk to me. I'm here to help you. There's nothing that the Lord cannot do." He still couldn't respond, yet started stretching his legs on the floor. I pulled off his pants, wiped some of the olive oil from his skin, and fetched a bucket of water to bathe him outside. I brought him back inside and then dressed him on a different short. I carefully cleaned the room with my mop and monitored him on the bed until he fell asleep. I checked my breasts for any marks but found nothing. Later, I prayed and laid on the bed next to him. I started calling him Gift, as I presumed he was a gift from God, considering that no one had come to reclaim the child. Since I was losing weight, I started eating more fats, hoping to add up. I felt that God had blessed me with a male child because I was nearing menopause. I knew that the chances of me having another child with a total stranger were minimal. I planned to do everything in my power to protect him, train him, and even convert him to Christ if possible. I wanted to break the news to people after he had at least grown up to an extent. I was taking my time to teach him how to hold a pen and write, as well as how to read and speak properly. I was trying my best, even though he wasn't ready to learn. I made a conscious effort not to correct him by spanking, to avoid his irritating cries. As for his navel that kept shooting out, I would massage it and pray for him every night before sleep. Along the line, things began to get messy for me, just read on. One day in church, my pastor called me to his office, said I had taken something that wasn't mine and that I should return it to where I found it, warning of repercussions. Initially, I tried to deny knowing what he was talking about and said, "But sir, I still don't understand what you mean. Are you trying to say I stole something?" "Madam, you're misunderstanding me. I'm only speaking as the Holy Spirit reveals to me. There's something in your possession that doesn't belong to you. What you'll need to do is simple. Just look for the owner or return it. You can even hand it over to me, and together, we can locate the owner. I'm only doing my work as a man of God." I just stood up and started leaving. I felt somehow embarrassed, cause two of the ushers that were also in the office heard what we were talking about. My pastor brought out a cross and handed it to me. He instructed me to wear it around my neck while I slept every night, explaining that it would open my eyes to the things surrounding me. He also mentioned that his office was always open if I ever felt like talking to him. Reluctantly, I took the cross and left. Madam Lizzie, a customer I bought 4 cups of rice while heading home, asked if I was fine, and I nodded in response. Another friend of mine, Isaac, whom I respect greatly, bumped into me. After I bent down to greet him, he asked the same question and even added that I had slimmed down. I simply replied that it was just stress and that I would get better. He asked about my daughter and I responded in the affirmative. Before I went home, Gift had already messed up my room with his feces, so I cleaned everything before preparing the rice. After preparing the meal, I offered Gift a portion, but he refused to eat. Instead, he started crying and ran toward the back of the house, where I had planted some plantains, the same area where I had first seen him. I carried him back to the house 3 times, yet each time, he managed to find his way back there. Always crying even when I tried making things right. Some persons that saw me bundling the child inside felt worried but minded their own business. As night fell, he was the one who returned back to the house. I then bathed him even when he refused to eat. He only drank a sachet of water that he saw on my table. I later wore the cross on my neck to sleep. Gift lay right in front of me on the bed. I took my time to ensure he had fallen asleep before allowing myself to drift off as well. In that same room, I started feeling the touch of unseen hands rubbing/massaging my body from my neck down to my toes. Physically, nothing was there, but each time I drifted off, they'd reappear. More than 7 of them surrounding me on the bed, their hairy bodies pressing against me. Their faces were unidentifiable, lost in shadows. I'd scream Jesus and then wake up. But I'd later drift off. Jolting awake from the nightmare the 3rd time, that was when I realized Gift was no longer with me. My heart pounded as I heard faint noises beneath it. The sounds of my cartoons were rattling under my bed. My chest was even itching me. Curiosity got the best of me. I quickly pulled my top, switched on my phone's flashlight and peered under the bed. What I saw at first sight made my blood run cold. It was something that was having the face of a cat. Panic seized me. I flung the door open and bolted out of the room like a madwoman. I grabbed the first wrapper my hands touched, tied it around my waist, and fled off to Monica's place. She was like, "Anna. What happened? Thief pursue you? Please let me just spend the night here. Something strange that I can't even explain is going on in my house right now. Please let me just stay here till morning, please. As you can see me, I'm putting on ordinary wrapper. I couldn't have time to get dressed before I left my house." "No problem, I just hope you're safe," she said. That was how she allowed me inside. I shared bed with her in her room since her husband was absent. When she asked me to go into detail, I only told her that I saw a creature that I couldn't explain. She asked me to try and explain it in every possible way. "Is it a ghost?" No, not ghost. The thing was having the face of a cat. I know what I saw. I'm just worried. I muttered the words to her fearfully. Nothing will happen. The Lord is with you. You know that people do all these their witchcraft things at night, weh. But God will help you, trust me. Nothing will happen. I went back home as early as 5:30 a.m. the following morning, to avoid being noticed. When I arrived, the child was nowhere to be found. The door was ajar, just as I had left it. The only thing on my bed was a pile of white ashes. I gathered everything on the mattress, took them outside, and burned them along with the ashes. I was just pacing around barefooted. I called my pastor on the phone to come and see what was happening. By then, I had already alerted some persons that had gathered in my house. Most of those who had seen me with the boy before were now calling him a witch. Some claimed he was sent from Coven, while others speculated different things, and I understood their reactions. Pastor arrived with some of his colleagues, and I explained everything to him. He prayed with me, anointed the room, and took back the cross, saying that the necklace had fulfilled its purpose. He then instructed me to gather all the ashes from the burnt mattress and bury them at the exact spot where I had found the child. I did as he said. Before leaving, he advised me to inform him immediately if anything similar happened again, rather than waiting until the situation worsened. He also warned that not everyone deserves help, no matter their condition. I wish I knew I wouldn't have helped the boy. To this day, I have never seen the child again. The end. Please don't forget to like, drop a comment below, and then subscribe for more. Thank you.